Environmental Fund in honor of Natasha Chichelniski-Heel. I want to especially thank Dr. Chichelniski for her generosity in making this conference series possible. We're pleased you're joining us for the conference this year, focused as it is on both the place of justice in international organizations and on the environmental agendas they pursue. This theme is in honor of the intellectual legacy and memory of Natasha Chichelniski-Heel, a young scholar who was deeply concerned with natural resource management and global environmental inequities. The conference this year features speakers from 5 continents, as well as important scholars from Yale. The title of this year's conference is Negotiating Institutional Transformation, International and Comparative Approaches to Justice in Environmental Protection. The conference will feature leaders from the Global South, as well as experts from a variety of disciplines. The conference panelists will include jurists, legal scholars, diplomats, economists, and activists. Though the meeting will be virtual, we'll have many opportunities to engage the speakers and network, including an award-winning documentary film screening. Topics will range from making existing institutions work better to creating policy space for activists and for nature itself. The virtual nature of the conference, while it diminishes to some extent the magic of in-person interaction, really allows us to bring in truly remarkable international leaders while limiting greenhouse gas emissions associated with travel. I want to congratulate Professor Gerald Torres, the leader of the conference this year, and his lieutenant, Kristen Barendrecht Ludwig, and Dr. Amity Doolittle, for the vision, the design focused on maximizing interaction, and the remarkable cast of international leaders you've assembled. Under these unusual circumstances, you've put together an incredible conference. The conference will begin with Ambassador Jennifer Haverkamp asking, must diplomats choose between promoting justice and their national interests? Professor Daniel Bonaski changes the focus a little by exploring the role of justice in United Nations institutions. We'll close the day with a screening of the documentary Mossville, When Great Trees Fall, followed by a discussion by the filmmakers. We'll reconvene on Sunday with a panel featuring the Justice of the High Court of Brazil, Antonio Herman Benjamin, and Alfred Brownell, the winner of the 2019 Goldman Environmental Prize, which is commonly referred to as the Environmental Nobel Prize. They'll explore environmental defenders, the role of NGOs in human rights conflicts. And finally, we'll close with Professor Catherine Eorns from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, and Professor David Cordero Heredia, Director of the Human Rights Center of the Pontifical Catholic University of Ecuador Indigenous Rights. They'll address the question of rights and responsibilities in relation to the natural world, reframing conceptions of justice. We believe our strength as a school is in being an international convener, sharing knowledge, perspectives, and experience from around the globe. With that in mind, we've designed this conference to support new connections, collaboration, and knowledge sharing. In closing, we'd like to thank each of you for attending our conference and bringing your expertise to our gathering. By bringing together scholars, practitioners, and students from across disciplines, we'll engage deeply with challenges and opportunities for justice that are experienced by communities around the world. We hope the Global Environmental Justice Conference will be one of many opportunities to gather as a community and advance the cause of justice worldwide this year and in future years. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Graciela Chichelniski, who, in addition to being an incredibly accomplished academic and businesswoman, as you'll soon hear when I read her bio in just a minute, is also the fiercely loving mother of a talented scholar, Natasha Chichelniski-Heel. The fund she established here at the School of the Environment honors Natasha's time at Yale as a PhD candidate in political science, where she focused on important environmental justice issues. Dr. Graciela Chichelniski is the co-founder and CEO of Global Thermostat and co-creator of a carbon removal technology to assist in mitigating climate change. Under Dr. Chichelniski's leadership, Global Thermostat's technology was chosen by the MIT Technology Review as one of the 10 breakthrough technologies of 2019, a list curated by Bill Gates. In addition to her role at Global Thermostat, Dr. Chichelniski is a professor of economics and mathematical statistics at Columbia University and the director of the Columbia Consortium for Risk Management. Dr. Chichelniski acted as one of the lead U.S. authors on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which received the 2007 Nobel Prize for its work in deciding world policy with respect to climate change. And she worked extensively on the Kyoto Protocol, creating and designing the carbon market that became international law in 2005. Dr. Chichelniski is the author of more than 300 scientific articles and more than 15 books, including the recently published Reversing Climate Change and the award-winning Saving Kyoto. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Graciela Chichelniski to say a few words. Take it away, Graciela.
Thank you so much. I wanted to start by thanking Dean Burke. In fact, thanking very much everybody who contributed to and who is responsible for the organization of the second annual Global Environmental Justice Conference, where we all are. This is very impressive to me, and I want to acknowledge the great importance of what Yale is putting together under Dean Burke's leadership. And I want to say that the support that I'm happy to provide is really because I am here talking while I wanted Natasha to be talking, my daughter, to honor her. I want to address specifically for a couple of minutes the topics that Indy Burke just mentioned. I want to say 2020 is an unusual year in many ways. I don't think I have to go over that. I think we all know it and we all live through it. But here are the good news. In 2020, for the first time, solar energy, in fact, solar photovoltaic, has become less expensive than all fossil fuels, including coal, natural gas, and petroleum, in the production of electricity in power plants, which is, as we all know, the #1 contributor of emissions of CO2 that cause climate change. So for the first time in human history, solar energy is less costly, is more efficient than all fossil fuels. This is huge. Another thing that is now appreciated is that the removal of CO2 from the atmosphere is now feasible and in fact is strictly necessary in order to avoid catastrophic climate change, according, among others, by the United Nations IPCC that was just mentioned, where I acted as US lead author years ago, but also according to the United States National Academy of Sciences. That CO2 removed from air, is also called carbon removal, is the hope that we have for reversing climate change, which is the book that was mentioned by Indy that I just published, Reversing Climate Change. Now, reversing climate change by removing CO2 from the atmosphere is now necessary. It's not sufficient to reduce emissions. And the point is that the CO2 that is removed is sufficiently cost-effectively removed that it can be used to produce desalinated water, fertilizers, drinks and beverages, and a number of materials such as cement, and also synthetic fuels, which are synthetic gasoline, etc., which now means that CO2 is going to substitute petroleum. So we have solar energy emerging this year as the most effective, cost-effective way to produce electricity for the first time for humankind, and also CO2 emerging as, if you wish, the replacement for petroleum in the production of goods, services, materials, etc. That means, and I don't have time to talk about that, that now the air and the sun, which are the sources of solar energy and CO2 respectively, and are available to everybody as inputs, are going to transform, and they are already starting to transform completely the world economy. And I say justice is key to that, because we all have access to the sun. We all have access to the air. This is the first time that common property resources are going to be fundamentally changing the world economy, and they will be available to everybody. So that means equity, not tomorrow morning, obviously, but when this revolution is completed. The negotiation of this environmental justice is something which is very thorny, very difficult. The new election, the newly elected president, is a ray of hope for a major transformation. At least he wants to do it, and we hope it can be done. We now have solar energy as the number one lowest cost form of production of electricity, and we now have CO2 replacing petroleum in all these ways. So the issue is that these negotiations that appear to be almost hopeless for those who attended the convention of the parties for so many years, like myself, now are taking central stage. That is why this conference is so important. And I want to say, before you give up in disgust or in losing hope, if you wish, that the Kyoto Protocol has succeeded, that the European Union emission trading system and all that negotiation has now achieved a reduction in the emissions of the European Union, 37 nations, by 20% below the 1997 level. This is in a publication called Physics Today that all physicists read around the world, December 2019. It's all happening now. The reason that's important is because it means the Kyoto Protocol and its carbon market, the European Union emission trading system, has reduced emissions as was proposed, as it was designed to do, successfully. And we even have a carbon market in China and in California. So this is negotiations, as painful and difficult as they are, international negotiations are working. And if the whole world would have achieved the success of the European Union and the success that we have in the markets in the United States, in the carbon markets, there will be no problem of climate change. The problem now is time. We're out of time. But I want to say negotiations can succeed, as painful as they may be, and as slow as they are. Solar energy is here with us today, the most cost-effective way to produce power, which means resolve the problem of inequity, poverty, and CO2 replacing petroleum, both of them coming from the sun and from the air, which are available to everybody, equity. I cannot say, therefore, more clearly the importance of this conference. And I also cannot say more clearly than I have the thanks that I feel to Yale, to Dean Berg, who has been a major leader here, really impressive, and all the people that participated in the organization, and now all of you participants. Welcome, let's do it.
Thank you. Those remarks were both stirring and because they locate this conference in the range of work that's happening, and the remarks you gave us actually give us hope because things can be done, things can be improved in an era when hope is in short supply. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for supporting this conference. I want to thank you for beginning the support last year and continuing forward. I'm looking forward to us continuing to build and contribute to a broader international dialogue. Amity, I don't know if you wanted to have the.
Oh, I just want to say welcome, everyone. Thank you again, Graciela, for making such a wonderful opportunity. I took a moment to look at some of the registered participants, and it's so exciting to see alum from our school, participants from last year, lots of wonderful familiar faces in the audience. And I think we have a pretty exciting day lined up for everyone. And, you know, I just want to say, for me, the focus on justice is really what this is all about. As important as the markets and the technology in making these substitutes available for us, I think what environmental justice also does is reminds us that there are often deeper or hidden interconnections around environmental management and human rights. And so working with all these amazing negotiators and scholars and activists we have today, hopefully we can dig into some of those challenges. So thank you.
So I want to thank everyone who's joining us. I want to tell you a little bit about the platform to the extent that I can. You can add in the chat if you like where you're from. We'd like to be able to capture people locations. We think that this is it is a global conference, and so if you could tell us where you're from, it would be great. You can communicate directly with people through the chat. So if there's someone you met or want to talk to, you can direct chat them. We also have the question button you'll see on the right-hand column. The question button is where you can ask questions, and you'll note once you ask a question that if you read it or you read someone else's question, you can upvote it. You can say that's a really important question. And then, as you know, as people vote on questions, they rise to the top of the queue. So I hope that'll be a useful feature. Grace Hilbert is someone that you can, if you have questions with the. As you navigate the platform or other things during the course of the conference, you can contact her, and she will help out to the extent she can. I hope this platform is useful. We wanted to make it available so that you all can meet each other, because I think at conferences it's often just as important to listen to the main speakers and the discussion. But it's also critical to share with one another, and that's how networks are built. I'd like to start the conference by offering a land recognition, at least for where I sit. Obviously, people are around the world, and so the land recognitions would be different from place to place. But we sit here on the ancestral lands of the Quinnipiac and the Pequot. And I wanted to make sure that did not go unsaid. At the end of after the end of the closing session, we're going to have the opportunity for affinity groups to be constructed. We hope that through the questions, we'll organize topics for people to gather and talk about. So you should start thinking about what you have a real passion for. What would you like to talk to other people about? which of the themes that we're going to discuss today do you want to share or engage other people with? And so we're going to set up on Sunday. We'll crowdsource the topics and set up affinity groups and discussion sessions for you all to further that. Okay.
So, Gerald, I thought I'd say just one other thing before you introduce our panelists, that people have a sense of how we're running or organizing the day. We have some recorded remarks by the key panelists, and then we've asked both the Yale faculty and a doctoral student, a law student, someone to provide some remarks, and that will open the discussion, and then hopefully we can have more interchange with the audience and the panelists. So I think that's where we are. And if people want to be asking questions in the question feature as it goes along, we can try to capture those and bring them into the discussion as well as we move forward.